So I'm not the main speaker today. That's gonna be Zealand here, and I'm not gonna introduce him. I'm gonna let him do that. I'm not gonna steal his thunder. But my name is Nick Scozen. I'm the regional recruiter for Fastenal, so I'm just helping out. I'm the assistant to the district manager today. But I kind of wanted to get us kick started just by telling you all a little bit about the Fastenal company before he came in and started talking about leadership and what that means to be a leader, both within Fastenal, just in general as well. But let's see if that works. Okay, it did work. Hit the right button. So, how many of y'all are familiar with Fastenal? Have you heard the name? Okay, a couple of y'all. What do you know about Fastenal? What's your
I
name?
don't know any. My name's Bobby. I don't know anything. I've just seen the trucks.
Okay. The big box trucks or like just the pickup trucks?
The pickup trucks.
Okay. Someone else raised? Yeah.
I think like you guys deal with a lot of like supplying different industries like construction.
Yeah.
Supplies.
And what type of supplies would that be? Can you name some products maybe? Come to mind? Anyone? When you think of construction supplies, industrial supplies, anything like that?
Concrete, wood, metal, granite.
So it would be more the products that we would use to install a lot of those things. If you're doing metal work, you're laying concrete, those types of things. Not although I guess we could supply those as well, but they're not some of the main products. But yeah, a lot of those consumable items that people use on a daily basis to build something, repair something, maintain facilities, protect their people. We're selling those products. Before I get into some of that nitty gritty there, I'll kind of take you back to the beginning, how we started as a company. We have not always been the huge company that we are today, and I will get into that, that scale of how big of a company we are today. But we did start just as a small town fastener store, and fasteners are just nuts and bolts, things that you use to fasten one thing to another thing, right? So if you're fastening two pieces of wood together or two pieces of metal together, a nut and a bolt, things like that. That's how we started as a company. We were just selling fasteners in Winona, Minnesota. Essentially, our founder just bought a bunch of bolts with the intention of putting them in a vending machine. At that point in time, cigarettes were pretty popular in the 60s, right? They're not so popular now, but they were, and people wanted them on demand, so there were actually vending machines for cigarettes. And he had the idea of putting nuts and bolts into cigarette boxes and vending those out, lining the storefront with those and dispensing fasteners that way, so that people just had that on hand. That did not come to fruition at that point in time, but he had a bunch of product that he needed to sell, so they just started going out into the local market, getting to know the people, finding out what they needed, and starting to sell that product, and the business kind of grew from there. So we did just start, selling fasteners essentially that way. So when I talk about the scale of the company, we started as that small town hardware store, Winona, Minnesota, one location, slowly grew from there over the years. Today, we're almost an $8 billion organization. So I'm not sure exactly how many employees we started with initially. I can't remember that figure, but today we have over 23,000 employees across the world. That's in 25 different countries. So we went from one city in America to all over the United States to international as an organization with 23,000 employees. We expanded the breadth of products that we sell. So it's not just fasteners that we're selling, even though that's still our largest category that we supply as a company. People still know us as a fastener organization. It's still a product that they come to us that they're familiar with Fastenal for. But now we can pretty much supply just about anybody's needs in the industrial industry. So whether they're, like I said, needing to protect their people, safety supplies is something that we sell. If they're needing to do metalworking, welding, grinding, things like that. If they're needing to install electrical supplies, we have supplies for that as well. So really anything our customers need, we're going to provide the service they need to get that job done. You can see here the breadth of industries along with the product lines. The main industry that we service is going to be heavy manufacturing, and it just really makes sense with our business model today, just because the types of materials that they buy, it's in line with what we supply, but also they just purchase a lot of the same stuff over and over and over again, and they're not going anywhere. They just kind of set up shop in one place and they kind of grow from there. And the way we go to market, we like to focus on people's planned spend which is what are those items that they purchase in a consistent manner that we can supply for them and just kind of take that burden of purchasing, managing those materials off of them. So that's why manufacturing fits so well with our business, but really just about any industry uses those materials and they partner with Fastenal in some way. So, like I said, we started out as a fastener company. Some people still just see Fastenal as a place to buy nuts and bolts, but really it's however we interact with people, how we're providing, customer service to them. That's how they see us. They can see us as a logistics company. They can see us as a technology provider through our vending programs and RFID technology to manage their supply chain. They could be meeting with different types of consultants that we have, whether it's engineers, what would it be? On-site solution consultants, supply chain consultants, or they could just see that holistic perspective of Fastenal that we really are just a supply chain partner. We can provide all their product needs, but then also provide solutions on top of that to help them to manage and streamline their supply chain. So, and it all comes back to just, having great people close to our customers. So without further ado, I'll let Zealand take it from here.
It's so funky. I appreciate Nick's role, but the introduction for me feels kind of silly. Listen, I appreciate being here today with you guys. As Whitney talked about my dad's role at this campus, I'm humbled to be standing in one of these classrooms, to be honest with you. My dad taught here for 36 years. So SLCC was all I knew growing up. I was super cool because we had season tickets to the basketball team when they were playing over on the South High campus before the activity center was built. He was in building BB 107E is where his office was. And so driving to this campus last year with my dad passed away 2 years ago in August. And so driving here last year to present in one of these classes where my regional vice president came and did it was my first time on campus. That was super emotional for me. And then coming today and standing in one of these classrooms is very humbling for me, just because of my dad's role in my life and how he touched so many students' lives. As he passed, we kind of learned that going through his retirement party in 2016, and then his viewing all the students and faculty that reached out. It's super happy to be here to talk with you guys today, just because it is to me SLCC. So I'm excited about that. So a little bit about me and my career path. I attended this school for 2 years the best I could. I got an internship at a radio station and that's what I wanted to do all my life, was broadcasting. And I had some success for about a year, jumped right into a full-time role. And for 2 years, I was told by everybody I worked with that I was good enough, I was going to last forever and stop going to school. Well, shoot, I wanted to be a broadcaster all my life. I'm going to stop going to school and do this. In 2002, I just got back from a Mexico vacation with my wife and her family. And I got pulled out, so I was working in the news department full-time, and I was producing the University of Utah football and basketball games on the radio part-time. Channel 4 TV purchased the radio station. It was Clear Channel Broadcasting. Sorry, reverse that. Clear Channel bought Channel 4 TV here in Salt Lake. And I was a reporter full-time, so the TV reporters were gathering the news and would send it. We only did radio anchors. So I lost that radio anchor job, but kept producing University of Utah sports for 13 years thereafter. But my dad's relationship with Fastenal, similar to what we've got here with Whitney, the second week of January when I lost my job, my dad says, Z, you need to call Tom at Fastenal. Growth company, great opportunities. You can start low and work your way up. I said, Dad, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm in broadcasting. I am much more cool than fasteners and industrial supplies. So about 8 months of unemployment starts to wear out. I see an expiration date on that unemployment. I say, hey, Dad, what was the name of that guy? And I called Fastenal in July and started in Salt Lake. So I started full-time sales support at the Salt Lake store. That worked its way into an assistant manager position. I have an email saved from my first manager that he sent to the district manager saying, we have this Zealand guy. I don't know why we hired him. He never wants to be in sales. Why do we keep hiring these guys that don't want to sell? I saved that email for about 10 years as he got fired for being a bozo. and I started working my way up. When I finally made the jump to be a manager in 2005, there's a guy named John Suher who was selling for Murray's at Murray's Fastenal store. And he took the management spot at the Heber store. Neither one of those stores exists anymore. We'll get into that. But I started to realize internally, I was like, wait, if that guy can be a manager, why don't I want to be a manager? I'm just as good as he is in doing this. And so from there, the Layton store had opened up and I was living literally a half mile from that store. I was fortunate to get that business. And what Fastenal does, we are business to business sales. We had a retail front for a while. And if you drive by some of our stores, you can still walk in from 9 to 3 and they'll help you at times, depends on the store. But with the business to business sales, we found growth in focusing on those businesses. In about 2008, we introduced an on-site model. We already had a couple, but we started to really put a strong push into it. To where as customers start to give you this revenue that justifies a Fastenal team, we will move on site to that customer store or that customer's facility, and then we just take care of everything they need for their manufacturing needs. So as I was running Lifetime Products in Clearfield in 2005, it started to blossom into a big opportunity to where we needed that on-site presence at Lifetime. And they had committed to do $3.5 million a year with us. And so we agreed, okay, we'll come on site. So Lifetime went from doing $35,000 a month to about 800 to 1.1, depending on the month of their season, a month, $1 million. So with that on-site, I moved myself and some of my team to run an on-site facility, and we found great success in that model. Continue on real quick. The last couple of years have been fast. I moved into a district sales specialist position, which is basically an assistant to Matt Porter, who runs the North Salt Lake district. And then last year, about this time in August, I was hired to be the district manager for Fastenal. So my district is 201 South in Salt Lake, going down to Beaver, and then over to Rifle, Grand Junction, and Montrose, Colorado. I have 9 public stores and 6 of those on-site customers we talked about within that area. So as far as Fastenal goes, he talked about Bob Kierlin, our founder, creating the company in 1967. We've always had the same 4 cultural values: ambition, innovation, integrity, and teamwork. And based off of those 4 things, and if you were to interview with Fastenal, you're asked what your definition of integrity is, because to us, integrity is everything. You know, when it comes to leaders, and as we look for leaders within our business, integrity is, it all starts with integrity. If you're not a person of integrity, then we can't have you. It just opens too many doors, and we are a decentralized company. And so as we start to give you your business and Sandy, and while I mentor over it, it's your business to make your own decisions. We have to trust your honesty in dealing with your customers, with your people. And if you're not a person of integrity, it's out the door. As far as innovation goes, have you ever seen industrial vending machines before? With safety gloves, safety glasses? Oh, yeah. So it's very similar to candy machines. In 2008, we started to push this industrial vending machine model to customers, and it's gone crazy. We have over 200,000 devices now across customer facilities, dispensing anything from safety glasses to gloves to even high $200, $300, $400 cutters in vending machines, because it helps to track who's taking it, how often they're taking it, and it can restrict that usage. So we've learned through growing within our partnerships and our customers, they really like that data. And so we've specialized in that data. So as our customers have found needs, we do all we can to fulfill those needs, and we have no problem with that. So our innovation is unlike any other. And as you compare our vending platform to our competition, almost everyone has vending now. Our industrial competition would be like Grainger, MSC, locally, I'm sure you've seen Industrial Supply, but none of them offer the traceability, the tracking, and the access communication that Fastenal does. That sets us apart. And then teamwork, of course, when it comes to teamwork, you're gonna be, whether you're starting tomorrow or you've been here for 23 years, you're working in a team environment almost every day. And so your ability to adapt to others is huge when it comes to who you are and how you can be a great employee, especially Fastenal. So Bob Carroll is our founder. 1967, him and 6 of his friends, as Nick touched on, started a fastener house with the idea of a vending machine and doing the turnstile, which I'm sure none of you have seen, maybe Russell, Whitney, and myself. The turnstile cigarette machines, that fell out the door immediately. If you know what a fastener is, it can be anything from that big to that big, and this is not going to fit in a vending machine. But what they immediately found as they started visiting with customers was everyone needed fasteners to be closer to them. So they started the access point of getting wherever the need was and just creating stores. So starting in Winona, Minnesota, they opened up stores. They would give them 4-digit branch codes. And the Winona, Minnesota store is John, John. It was the John store. And John was the first manager. There's a store in Indianapolis who the guy's wife name was Ivy. And so the 4-letter branch code was IVEY, just in honor of her. They started to realize that wasn't going to work because they expanded across the country. And they started to do more regional or located based off of where you're located. So Idaho Falls would be ID. Anyone want to guess what the 4-letter code from the first Salt Lake store is? 4 letters. With the state, it's gotta be UT.
UTSM.
Oh.
SLUT.
No, that's dirty. It wouldn't be SLUT.
Oh.
That was, that was the first code sent to corporate saying the Salt Lake store should be SLUT. And luckily someone in corporate said, no, that's not gonna work. So it was SAUT. Thank you for falling into that trap. Appreciate that. It was SAUT in Salt Lake. So as we started to grow, we started having, so the perfect idea to paint the picture of locations. In Utah County, just 6 years ago, we had a store in American Fork, we had a store in Provo, we had a store in Orem, and we had a store in Spanish Fork. Just in that short distance drive. In Salt Lake, we had Sandy, we had 2 in West Jordan, we had 1 in Murray, we had 1 on 9th West and 30th South in Salt Lake. Then we had the store I started at, which was like California Avenue in Salt Lake, and then North Salt Lake. So we had flooded the market with Fastenals because that's what the customers needed. We have since kind of changed that approach, but through the idea of Bob and his buddies to be where the business needed, it started small, of course, in Winona, Minnesota. 20 years later, we're trading on the NASDAQ as a public company in 1987 to where we should be doing $8 billion, as Nick alluded to, by the end of this year. So Bob had written 2 books. You might have written more, but one of the main books that we give all of our new employees is The Power of Fastenal People. And he touches on the 10 rules of leadership. And next time I come to your class, I will have a case of books. Sorry, not this year. Maybe if you fail and you take this class again, at least you'll get a book out.
Once. It's different every time.
But and these are great rules. I don't necessarily want to go through all of them, but I might based off of time. I'm talking really fast. But the idea is, and BK's biggest thing was he always wanted to be a decentralized company. Now, there's a slide that talks on that. I've already mentioned it twice. The idea of a decentralized company is the decision making is not general, right? Each business leader, business manager should be able to make decisions for themselves. And so for even when BK retired, was on the board, then stopped doing that, and he was just doing customer visits, he was pushing the same thing all the time. Our people need to be making decisions for their business. So as you go through some of these 10 rules of leadership, you see that to where it's a teamwork aspect. It's a humble approach to business. You aren't bigger than anyone, and no one is bigger than you. We're all working together for the greater good and for the benefit of our business. Which of those five do you like the most?
If you find that, you got the thing control.
Yeah, how come?
Cause, I feel like if you, I mean, I was in the Marine Corps and when I picked up NCO, a lot of it that I had to learn was you can't like control the lower, like, not, I don't know how to say that right, but the people under you can't control them. What you wanna do is kind of like challenge their mind to try to be like, hey, why didn't you think about this? Maybe, and then maybe next time you can develop kindness.
Great. Who else? That's fine. Yeah,
I really like three, just because I feel like the people that are the best leaders aren't always the people that are like there in your face and like attacking you in a way.
Mhm.
But they're just kind of like in the background, making sure everything's doing good, and like if something does go down, they're kind of like, hey, and I know you need some help, I'll help you. And then I'll reward you or help you out some more, depending on if you get it or not.
yeah. Absolutely.
I like five, listen rather than speak.
I do too.
I think this is just. Like as an employee, you wanna think that you know everything, but you really don't. Or some people do think that they know everything. I think that's the best way that you can learn and grow within a position is to listen rather than speak more often, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. So the next five. See the unique humanness in all persons. This is huge in leadership. As I was driving here this afternoon, I was thinking of all 63 people I have working under me now. And what that number must have been as I moved up. When I was running the Layton store, I think I went through about 45 or 50 people just in that 10 years. So understanding just the individuality of each employee. For me and my progression as a leader, I remember starting in 2005 and there was Nick, Tyson and Ben, all who would work there. Nick was the assistant manager. Tyson and Ben were just going to Weaver and were part-time students. And I really wanted these guys to like me. I wanted these guys to be my buddy, right? And I did that. But the business initially kind of struggled because I was focusing on being their buddy, being their friend, talking games, talking activities, whatever we could, rather than getting the work done. So now, as a fast forward, 10 to 15 years later, I'm in that same role essentially as a business manager or a branch manager for the company. As I started hiring people, it's interesting how I handled the last person I hired. Her name was Julie Carrillo. And while we still got along and there was mutual respect, my intent was different because I was respecting her as an employee, but not, it was all about being friends. So it's funny how that kind of changes as you progress in leadership. Developing empathy, suppressing your ego, letting people learn. I think that's a lot of things we go through as we continue to hire new employees, is recognizing that, I've been with the company for 23 years. I probably do know a lot about how to do this. And I could easily log in real quick and place this order. But I have to allow this person to learn to make mistakes so she can or he can work their way up the knowledge tree. Yeah.
It's a very good thing to remember. A religious leader that I respect a lot, like he gave an analogy of saying like, if I always wanted my front yard to be nice, like I'll mow it myself. But one time my son asked me to do it and he destroyed it. And like I really wanted to be mad at him. But then I thought, well, it's just gonna grow back and it's not a big deal. And the next time he did it, he destroyed it again, but he destroyed it a little bit less.
Yeah.
And then he learned how to do it. And then his brother wanted to, like his younger brother wanted to his older brother to teach him. So he learned then that time, like, hey, like it's okay. Like there's things that we can mess up, like for people to learn, and there's things that we don't let them mess up on.
Yeah.
And that is something that, like, if we want to be part of a business or a company, we need to internalize.
Yeah.
We need to give people things to mess up, and that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. I know that as I kind of worked my way up through the first, 3 to 4 years within the company, the nice thing that Fastenal gave me was that opportunity to progress and to use my strengths. And that's clearly based off of your leader, right? If I had The guy that was running Sandy's name, doesn't matter. He wasn't nearly as good as Dave, so Dave Ula was my second manager. Once they fired the bozo that I have the email saved from, Dave Ula came from BYU, he just graduated, young kid. And he knew my strengths were on the operations side of the business inside. His strength was going out and seeing customers. So when he went out to see customers, I would focus on collections, I would focus on payables, I would focus on inventory management, and we were a machine. And as we did that, I started to have some interest in the sales side. And he started taking me on some of his visits to help to turn me into a Fastenal salesperson. I don't think I could sell you guys a vacuum by any means, but I know I have no problem going into your maintenance team and talking through your filter business or your maintenance business of whether it's fasteners or janitorial supplies, whatever. Able to develop at your pace, challenge at my own pace to work into the role that I wanted to. Fastenal's wide breadth, but I believe you get into a little bit right on the career path side. You have a slide there, okay. Being able to see what doors could be opened for me within Fastenal really helped me to hone my skills, as I had an opportunity to do a couple of these things and be there or whatever. We're really not following any type of structure here. Let people learn and remember how little you know. Any favorites from these five? Yeah.
I really like the last one, remember how little you know, because it kind of goes along with 7, 8, and 9. And then from that kind of goes into all of them, but remembering how little you know, especially kind of suppresses your ego. And also like, the reason that I say that it kind of goes into 7, 8, and 9 is because it also allows other people to learn. Because you're not the one that has to be like, oh, I know how to do this, I'm doing this, but instead you can change the phrase and just say something along the lines like, well, how do you do it? Or how do you want to do this, and then learn that way. And so not only are you teaching that person in whatever capacity that they're doing, but you're also learning yourself another way that might be quicker, it might be easier, it might be all different things.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's more than one track to knowledge too. We're all gonna learn different ways. And you may know better than me. Work for me for 2 weeks, you may know a better way to handle something than I thought I knew. 100%. By the way, do you know why 6 was afraid of 7?
7, 8, 9.
Your time. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll be here for another 20 minutes. Anything else? Yeah.
I like to develop empathy, because I think like a lot of people, like you see someone and they're like struggling with something, you just don't judge, because like you may be better or something like that, but I think I think it's better to like take a step back in those situations and realize like they were raised in that different, or they just like specialize in different stuff. Where like they may not be good at that, but they could probably they do something else probably a lot better than you, or something stuff like that. So I think just going into that, I think just helps a lot.
That's great. That's great.
I think just to add on to that, I think developing empathy comes as maybe you were in that rough spot yourself, or maybe you were in their position at that time. I think that's one way that you're able to develop empathy, specifically in like workplaces. You struggle with that, so you know what it's like. Kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. It's so important to have that empathy, just because of all the people you're interacting with, even on a customer base or a supplier base when you're making these phone calls. We have no idea what they've been going through for the previous 7 hours before you're making that contact. And then also learning the difference between sympathy and empathy too, because there can be some pretty serious traps when it comes to people taking advantage of your empathy, because all they want is sympathy. So we talked about the decentralization, run it like you own it. This has not changed. I've been saying for 10 years, at some point with how big our company is, we have to start centralizing some of the decisions. And there are definitely regulations and parameters. And I'm going to be reaching out to my business manager in Grand Junction, Colorado, if he starts selling something at 3% margin, should be sold at 25. But the point of being decentralized is Charlie can walk into West Star Aviation in Grand Junction, Colorado, and sell them rivets for a 3% margin. he can. He will be held responsible for that, and he's not gonna get paid as well. But there's not locks in the system, so essentially it is, in every role we have, we be able to empower our team to be able to have the decision-making process within that role. So success killers. Things we have to fight through. Excuses, cynicism, and fear. You want to teach me on these three rather than me, you? Why excuses?
I think with excuses, it kind of creates, I can't think of the word right now, but complacency. So I think excuses, instead of, if you like go and do something most of the time, instead of kind of trying to create excuses, you would end up probably doing it a lot better and faster than if you would. So I think excuses just kills time and creates kind of complacency.
Yep.
They're justifications to fail. I work out, try to most days. And if I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh, I don't feel great today, I'm sick, I have so much stuff to do today, I could just do this. They're all reasons for me to not, like the buck stops with you.
Yep, absolutely. That's great. If I accept Whitney's excuse for some mistake she made today, and then she gives me another excuse tomorrow, and another excuse on Thursday, what's starting to happen to that relationship and that accountability? Just as you said. Now all of a sudden, there's complacency in what she thinks I expect of her. I'm kind of setting that tone by continually accepting those excuses. What about cynicism? Yeah,
I think just people that work while they're very cynical is very alarming, because you don't want to be around a person. First of all, you don't want to be around the person that is cynical, because then you just kind of, it brings you down yourself. And then, well, if you're the person that's cynical, then you're just kind of like, I feel like you just don't want to do anything, and there's a whole lot of things that are wrong with that.
that's great. It takes the focus off of the work week and what has to get done. And again, same thing, it's all about the accountability. To where there's time for fun and games, when there's a difference between, and sarcasm is a huge trap. Sarcasm is terrible, especially as leaders. Because once you start to follow me as sarcastic, and I can't be effective in my communication if I'm overly sarcastic or overly cynical. So that's perfect. And then fear. Why is fear a success killer? If you're afraid to make a mistake, are you gonna try or are you gonna do? Completely hinders our ability to be successful. Because we don't try, we're too afraid to get in trouble, to make a mistake, and to be fired. So, I guess I'll park on this for just a second. What makes a successful employee? Strong work ethic, problem solving skills, taking initiative, your desire to grow, continuous learning and self-development, and being a team player. Fastenal does a great job of that continual development. We saw by the numbers slide, if you saw it, you probably didn't, there's a lot of information on there. But I always like to park on the Fastenal School of Business, where we've created a learning program where you can do virtual courses, you can do in-person courses. I'm flying up to Winona for a training the first week of October for development. I had a coaching training 2 weeks ago I was in, and there's just always opportunities to learn. Fastenal recognizes that. So being able to have the desire to continue to get better, to recognize your growth potential is always there, helps you to maintain being a successful employee. The team player aspect, I mean, interpersonal skills is enormous. We don't focus enough on interpersonal skills in the development grades of learning, I feel. I've had 4 kids, my youngest is 17 and graduating. Homeboy is just dumb. I'm worried about him. He's a great hockey player, but he's just not very bright. So we're working on those personal skills right now. But there's so much in the teamwork aspect of being able to humble yourself to give all you've got, regardless of who you're working around. Sometimes you step up and lead, sometimes you just grind, right? I want to skip on this. Let's see, that's your stuff. So this is gonna be up while we talk about something different. I am very close with a guy named Dan Walker. Dan Walker used to be a cross training, a track and field coach at Weaver State. He retired after 30 years up at Weaver State, and he talked to me last week, last year, his grandson plays on the same hockey team my son does, and they do a ton of traveling across the country. And he talked to me about developing your abs. Spelled wrong because they're talking about abs. Developing your abs, which is 4 things that you can control in every interaction you have with someone, personally, professionally, whatever. So the A is your attitude. The B is your body language. The E is your effort. And the S is your spoken language. Best example of spoken language I can give you is a guy I play golf with almost every week. That's kind of changed with my new role. His name's Rocky, okay? And Rocky can drop the F-bomb like it's Cheerios, a handful of Cheerios. It's crazy. And I don't mind cursing by any means. But when he can tell me an 11-word sentence that includes 8 F words, he's not one of my son. So understanding your effect on others by the way you speak, by your effort in the workplace, your effort in your personal life with the E, the B, your body language. I've always tried to be very in tune in my body language. When I do interviews, I just conducted 3 job interviews today, and I've learned to not cross my legs, to not lean back, to always stay engaged. There's a lot of training on that. I'm sure you guys have received or been with that. Body language issues, and then your attitude, like your approach. Those are all 4 ways that you can differentiate yourself from others when it comes to business. Do you want to close out and then we can do Q&A from there if there's anything? Sure.
We have about 5
5 minutes.
Not taking that long at all. All right, so I'll go ahead and end it just with some talks about possible jobs with Fastenal before we start. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts on leadership and all that. I really enjoy listening to all your takes from there. By the way, my favorite rule of leadership from BK was number 6, to see the unique humanness in all persons. And I think it really goes well with my role, but then also just how we just have all these dynamic pathways with Fastenal. I mean, mine was one kind of like Zealand's, where I didn't necessarily know where I was going with Fastenal when I started. I just kind of started. I had that starting point. I started part-time with Fastenal, and whenever I started 7.5 years ago with Fastenal in the, I think it's up here, sales associate role, or sales support role, one of those 2. My role didn't even exist at that point in time. It's been around like 3.5 years roughly, the regional recruiting team has, so couldn't have even foreseen myself being a regional recruiter at that point in time. And even when I started, I didn't see myself ever being in sales, and eventually that happened as well. But it's just so cool being with a company that, does, play to your strengths. You're able to work with your leadership and, let them know where your frustrations are in the role. Like I feel like I'm not great here. What's next for me? And I was able to do that in my role and move from part-time to outside sales to general manager. And I'm not in the district manager role. I probably never will be. I don't see that for myself, but I get to be a regional recruiter, and I love that job. But this kind of gives you just an idea of some of the starting points here. These are pretty common starting points: warehouse associate, supply chain associate, sales associate. It's just really all they are entry points in the company. That's why I tell people they all have very similar training processes, similar tasks that you have to do. With at some point you'll specialize a little bit in each of those roles and do things different, but they're just starting points to the roots to the tree, and then eventually it's going to branch out. But this doesn't give you all the different pathways within Fastenal that everyone is going to be a district manager. Not everybody wants to be a district manager, right? Not kind of like myself. You could very well become a general manager and be that the rest of your life, or a branch operations manager. There's some of these are stopping points for people. Some of them they're stepping stones, and then there's all kinds of departments and roles that aren't even listed on here, right? We have our 8 our HQ roles that are in Winona, Minnesota, that, none of those are listed here, marketing, accounting, HR, all those roles, that you typically see in HQ. So all that to say, a lot of opportunity with Fastenal, and a part-time job in college is a great starting point, with us. So, if anything that Zealand said resonated today, just our culture, how we view leadership, just the opportunity that there is with such a large company that's also just local here. We do hire part-time. We're currently hiring part-time here, right? Yep. And I'm going to be at there is a career fair tomorrow. Are y'all aware of that? So there's career fair tomorrow if you weren't. I will be at that event along with one of our people from, I also have a hub here, I didn't mention that, so distribution roles as well, but one of our area managers from our hub is gonna be joining me tomorrow, so just talk about other types of roles. If you're able to stop by, come see me, talk about opportunities. If you're not able to, scan our QR code if you're interested, just learning more, staying in touch. We can go from there, but I guess we can take some questions.
Yeah, any questions? What's the work environment like in your area?
You see on this your area.
Um,
You didn't mean my role, right? Like, okay.
so we've kind of got away from the open public stores for customers. It's all mostly inbound calls or making deliveries for our customers now. It's all business to business sales, right? So it's filling vending machines, it's doing bin stock management. If you aren't comfortable outside in front of the customer, it's just managing inventory inside, helping our branch operations managers with what's inside the walls.
Please.
Oh, you can go.
One of the questions sir prepared was, a lot of people recommend changing companies every like 2 to 5 years in order like to grow in their careers. You stayed with Fastenal from 2002, right? It's been a long time. How do you think that has affected your career? And would you recommend stay with one company to anyone, or is it depending on situation? What would you say?
Great question. So the advantage for me was staying within Fastenal, obviously was the comfortability, understanding the processes. With Lifetime, I got tied to some relationships there that I just never saw myself needing. I maintained an income that was able to support my family. And so I would definitely say if you're looking to be making $4 million in 15 years, you can't stay with the same company and increase your income. That's obviously why people are, to me, the job hopping market is because you're making 50, damn it, you want to make 70. And so you can't come to me and say, hey, bro, I need $20 more thousand. I said, okay, where do I sign? You have to jump ship, right? So a lot of times I think that's where the culture has come from, as we're just so ingrained in needing or wanting or more money that we continue to jump. The disadvantage, which is the disadvantage for me too, I probably could be making more money if I did the job hopping thing. But I've found a way to fill my voids of a sense of worth within Fastenal, and I've been challenged enough to want to keep finding new buckets.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's many people have like a consensus that like, oh, like the further you go up in a company, like the less you have to do, the more they're practicing like their golf swing, right? Have you, in all the time you've had to go up in the company, will you agree with that sentiment that it's sort of disproportionate to the work you're doing? You just kind of,
Absolutely.
yeah,
No question about it, just because what I'm over, so right now I'm over the 15 business units and I'm over 15 people that are running their businesses. So all I'm doing is trying to stay with them, connected with them, to motivate them, to challenge them. I haven't placed a PO from 3M to buy anything, or as an example, in a year and a half. I haven't created an invoice for delivery or made a delivery for a year and a half. So my job has gone away from that task oriented and more into a management piece, which definitely is going to happen as you move up within the Fastenal markets.
So you're saying that it gets more people type work as you get higher up, more, because that's where the leverage is, where lower it's more like I'm actually doing the tasks when I'm like at the bottom of the pyramid. Towards the top, I'm working more with people.
Yeah, correct.
If I want to work more at the top of like doing more that kind of people work. How would I go about that? Should I still start from the bottom and work my way up in a company, or is there a better way to get into those top?
Just be the best.
Just be the
I would say it's best for you to get within the Fastenal's business, you have to get Fastenal's. You're not gonna start tomorrow and be amazing in 20 days. There's too much to learn within the system and the operations. But you can definitely come in and make a name for yourself and just be the best and look for opportunities. That's the other thing when it comes to, once you're in, the nice thing for hires within Fastenal is that you're not tied to Taylorsville, Utah, or to Layton, Utah, and you want to try something different, you can get on our job board and see what's going on in New Jersey, or in Quebec, or in Singapore, or in Europe, because there's all these opportunities to travel. The guys that I replaced came from Minnesota, he just wanted better skills. We've had a lot of people transplant from the Midwest to Utah, just because they want to ski, bro.
I do want to make one thought about that sometimes maybe students or people who are just beginning their careers don't realize that you do have to start at the bottom, that you do have to put in the work, and that you can't come in any organization and say, I'm going to be the district manager and slide right into the top right out of college. You have to put in the work to gain that respect and experience and reputation so that you can have that experience to have a leadership role. So I wouldn't go in just expecting I want to be CEO.
Yeah, so we would not. I would not hire you off the street as an account specialist.
Gotcha.
I would hire you off the street as a sales associate. And you could have a plan in 2 or 3 months to be an account specialist. So there's definitely a progression on the sales side as far as where to start. Yeah,
What's the educational opportunity out there you think everyone should look into?
interpersonal skills, no, business. I think business, getting into some sales and marketing courses. My dad was the DEX advisor, they still have college DECA, right? It's now college DECA. Does SLCC do that, or they
Pretty
get
much.
away with that once he left?
It's a little bit different, but
Yeah, for sure, those types of exercises, to help with that presentation, with the developing the salesmanship roles. It seems anything you can do to help with that.
And I'd also echo the interpersonal skills, just soft skills. That's like the number one thing that like any employer is gonna be looking for. I was just at an advisory board meeting for a supply chain department the other day. And they were asking about both the hard technical skills and then the soft skills. And what we as employers were looking at, I mean, the soft skills blew the technical skills out of the water, what we were all looking for, what we felt like candidates were lacking overall. Right, a lot of them were very heavy on the credentials, but then lacked a lot of the soft skills, you know, the teamwork, the communication skills, the resiliency, those types of things. That's what we see with a lot of candidates, they just lack the soft skills. So being able to set yourself apart with those.
I would agree, I've worked in HR for 25 years.
I'm much more interested in the way you answer a question in an interview than the answer you're giving. As long as
Yes.
you're blatantly lying.
100%.
Which I'll usually catch in a couple of follow-up questions.
You train someone how to do the job, but you can't train them as you say to communicate.
I'll leave business cards here. If you have any questions about today or are interested in some employment opportunities, even if it's part-time, we're very flexible with our hours too. Feel free to text or email me. Okay, I've got to run to Vernon.